Hello and welcome, Rick187 here, and we are back with Hearts of Iron, the New Order Total Conversion mod. We are moved into the future with the possibility of a German victory in World War II. Continuing on from where we left last stream as Her Majesty's Most Loyal Resistance, although now we have transformed into the English Transitional Government. We have won the Civil War, a hard-fought Civil War that was indeed, but one we came through. And and now so the focus this week, or a stream I should say, is going to be on rebuilding our country, and then maybe we can't see if we can't rebuild the Great Britain, putting the Great back into Great Britain. That's not been a political slogan yet. It sure will be soon. Just quickly before I jump into the game, one piece of news. So I saw on the TNO Discord that they have released update, I think it's 1.1.1. So that's some balances, some bug fixes, and some additional content for Russia. I think we've got a new Russian Empire kind of event chain they can go through. So they are working on an even bigger update called Toolbox Theory, but they've done this kind of mini one in the short term. So on that, so I'm actually still on the old version of the mod. I thought I didn't want to break anything with our run, so I'll keep going through that. But there is a new link and a new workshop file, so I will update that in the description on the YouTubes, and so you can get. I'll have the right version, and anyone catching this on Twitch, you should be able to find it just in the workshop, just by searching through TNO. Make sure you're up to date. I'm playing on the latest one. Okay, so where are we in terms of our transitional government? So. Let's look at our focuses. We are, just trying to rebuild the place, get democracy up and running like we said it was going to. I might just tweak the audio volume up a scooch. In fact, it's bloody good, don't we? It's feeling a little quiet, losing a bit of atmosphere. Where are we? Audio, music. Okay, that'll do. Just a scooch. Right. What was I saying? Important things, yeah. We were rebuilding, so we started introducing our democracy, including a very interesting one last time where we looked at, what was it, a young democracy law, which essentially gave a random council the power to overthrow the government if they felt we were being undemocratic, which is a very odd concept. But anyway, we did it, and we're starting kind of undoing the hardships of the war, and we're now, we've got kind of two halves to rebuild our system, our armies, our roads, our infrastructure, etc. And then we've got all the trials to do. So I thought we'll do the rebuilding and then we'll deal with these traitors. So let's unpause. So we got free military factories. Fine. I mean, how are we looking? Well, Pacific fleets at war, civilian austerity. Oh yeah, we were trying to balance our budget. I'll have a look at that in a minute. But maybe let's just jump in at the next focus. So we've got roads, people, or army. I think let's start with our people. One must not forget why we're doing all this. Not for some narcissistic desire to have our nation achieve some arbitrary definition of greatness. Not for the sole wish to have the collabs and the traitors suffer. We're doing this for the people of England. They don't deserve what was inflicted upon them by the Germans and their quizzling lackeys. They deserve to have a say in how things are done, and they deserve to have a decent and happy life. We will remember this and make it clear where our priorities lie. Sounds noble. Sounds good. I'm behind that. Right. Let's look at the monies. Money. So we are, so expenditures of 6.3 billion and revenue of 6.1. That's not great. So we're losing 200 million a year. There you go. Annual deficit. How can we tweak that? Well, we're not planning on going to war with anyone. So we could just do 3 months of that and 3 months of that. So this nerfs are, let's say, recruitable pop. In fact, we can get the modifiers here. So organization, recruitable pop, attack, defense, factor boot. It's generally all the stuff you would expect to happen if you suddenly stop paying your military as much. And then for civilian austerity, it does hurt our political power game, but not like we've got much to do with that at the minute. Resources, stability, war support, construction speed. So yeah, not ideal, but we're not doing a lot of building. We are focused entirely on the kind of focuses to rebuild our economy rather than actual building things. And yet all this stuff, you can't just jump between it. It's all kind of focuses or decisions and things like that. So there's not a huge amount to do with that for a minute. I will just check decisions just to make sure there's nothing we're missing. Nope. Nothing open yet. That's cool. Oh, we're still paused. Let's get to that. Apparently we have insufficient resources. So what are we building right now with our factories? Some planes. No, this is logistics. Ah, it's not building. What do we need? We need... Oh, I remember now. We were modifying our line units to be a bit more artillery focused. We're short of artillery. So indeed we're producing a little bit of guns and some artillery and a little bit of everything else. Why do we have 2 supports? Well, we can get rid of one of them. That frees up a factory, which we will put on artillery. The question is, do we want to build some more things, which we'll have a look at. Okay, but before then, das Großmanisch is the Great German Reich. Oh, that's a heck of a name. Declared war on... That's an even another heck of a name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Germany declares war on Poland. There we go. Nice and simple. Polenfeldzug. Screens across the globe have once more been filled with the stark image of Führer Bormann against bright lights and red and black swastikas. The Greater German Reich is once more at war. Despite all attempts at negotiation, he claims, the German people are involved in a... Oh god. Verteidigungskrieg, a war of defence against a violent terrorist or government of the Polish state. Once more, German tanks will dig their muddy treads through Polish fields and battle will rage. The largely unrecognised Polish government has responded that their alleged crimes are a falsehood created as a casus belli, but that nonetheless will fight to end resistance to German invader. I don't see this going well for Poland. Poland can't catch a break. Doesn't matter what timeline, what mod, what world you're living in. They're continually getting beaten up by Germany and Russia. Apart from, I suppose, now in the real life world, I think. I don't know my Polish politics very well. Okay, to the people. We could go bread and what? Get a monthly poverty change. So that's what I was talking about before. So if we look at our country modifiers, there'll be a poverty in here somewhere. Societal development, poverty rate. So we are in the 20 to 50% poverty. That's pretty darn high. And you can see it has a lot of bad impacts on us. So if we get a boost, then it'll start ticking upwards, and hopefully eventually we can go up a level. It all sounds like good and sensible things. Unassigned divisions? Who are you and where have you been? You need to join... Well, probably him. What have you got to me now? No, we just have an extra soldier. Well, that's awkward. Oh, you can join these random people then. Come here, you. Northumberland Division. You can join my ragtag bunch of these guys. I should probably switch these over to real soldiers at some point. I wonder if we could do that. Right, too many things happening. Pause the game. I mean, I bet this is going to absolutely kill our... Well, our everything, probably logistics. But sod it, we don't need militia, let's go. So, half our manpower. We've got plenty of infantry equipment. We don't have enough anti-tank. Hey, Kestabanga, thanks for the follow. So we'll go for that. So let's look at our production. Are we making anti-tank? Yeah, we just need a lot more of it. How much? So we're still short. 3,000 guns and 1,001 of them. I mean, we are short of money. So it's an interesting thing bringing money into this mod is that it makes you think about how many factories you're burning through. Because yeah, the more factories you use, the more it costs. I reckon we can squeeze another one onto our anti-tank. I'll go for that. We'll leave five unused at the minute. Okay, night vision done, and Poland's dead already. Fair enough. An English person's duty. The time has come. The candidates have been chosen for every party and every seat around the country. The parties have chosen their next prime ministers, and they hope will occupy 10 Downing Street. And now comes a short yet chaotic tradition of English Parliament, rare yet so consequential for the future of a nation. It's time for the elections. The National Democratic League and the Socialist Labour Party are the two major political organisations in this election. The NDL, headed up by George Jellicoe and backed by Claude Auchinleck, stands for the restoration of traditional pre-war England, but with the necessary reforms to keep it relevant in the modern age, and to make it respected once again on the world stage. The SLP, headed up by Harold Wilson and endorsed by Bill Alexander, is taking a more radical approach. England will finally cast off the chains that held the workers down and move towards a more equitable future, free of poverty. And with the rest of the worldwide proletariat, there isn't much for worldwide proletariat in the minute, to be honest. It's also David Stirling's organisation, but many observers regard it as an extremist minority party. The choice will come down to Jellicoe's promise of past glory restored, or Wilson's promises of a future glory to be claimed. I am going to go with the restore of a kind of constitutional democratic, republic, not monarchy is the word I'm looking for Queen and country, the NDL. No, don't fancy going communist. And we'll see what happens with David Stirling and his minority group. Okay, so bread's been done, so we can either do roads, which again, that does help poverty, or army, which, what's that do? Moves us up to military, from banned from service to military assistance. So we get more predictable pot, lose a bit of stability and more support. Let's start on the roads. England has long known the importance of solid infrastructure. The Romans laid solid, paved roads that we still use today. Our canals made us an industrial power, and our railroads brought much of the world into a more enlightened age. Now we are mired in poverty, and our roads are destroyed. One may draw a conclusion from this. England's roads will be rebuilt. Broad highways will link our nation together. Trucks and cars will have smooth, well-built paths to any area they wish to go. And with the proper framework in place, we can begin our industrial reconstruction. Go for it. Oh yeah, research as well. I think it was night vision. Yeah, so we can keep going up to Support Weapons 4. At some point we might consider tanks and things, but for now we're just going to be a leg army. Some planes in reserve, but that's fine. We got a minute, just 25 fighters. That's pretty rubbish. We've got any CAS yet? CV CAS, that's not what we want. Early fighter. CV fighters, don't really want them either. Basic CAS. Alright, we can at least create the wing, even if it's not going to have anyone in it. Oh, that was quick. Minute. Oh, too many. I would just like 25, please. Okay, and you guys go. Oh, let's click. Go on this army. If I can select you. There we go. Excellent. Next up, these are very quick ones. 7 days, excellent. So we can get a few civilian factories. That's more civilian factories. Alright, we'll just do this one then. England's economy does not work. In fact, it hasn't worked for many years. Many of it is merely the result of massive destruction and carnage from the two massive wars on the island. But there are a few things that just don't work, and we'll be prepared to replace all of it. Taxes, regulation, jobs, industries, everything will be rebuilt. And if we know that it won't work, we'll reform it and put something that will. England will be prosperous again, and we're going to do anything to make that happen. Sounds like a plan. So we're currently England without a navy. We're building, yeah, a few basic destroyers to try and have at least something of a navy, but a shadow of our former selves. We're short on a little bit of tungsten. We're not using all our civs, so we could definitely trade. Who's our trading partners? Can we probably make friends with America, but they don't like us. Okay. India, old friend. Come help us out. And to be honest, we could trade for the rubber as well, just because we've got spare civs that we're not really using. And we'll go South Africa. There we go. More Russian wars cracking away. We'll have to go look at there shortly, but we will first go to our rebuilding. To the army, our military accomplished what it set out to do. It defeated the collaborators and set in place a new system of government that will help the people of England. But in its new role, it's not as adept as it should be. It must be reformed, and we will begin to make necessary decisions to shape the military in the way we want. These are all a bit ambiguous focuses. We're all like, yeah, we're going to build it, but don't say exactly how. So what have we got? So we've got Commonwealth of Siberia. We've got some social democrats over here. No real conglomeration over here, although it looks like these two are fighting out. Authoritarian democrat, despots. Oh, some basic artillery. Let's keep going with that. Yes. In fact, can we skip this? No, it's 70s. Alright. We just do the upgrades and we can switch out our... So we're still making World War II guns at the minute. Finally, we can upgrade to some kind of rocket artillery, to be honest. Yeah, so then we've got the socialists here. They seem to be mopping up at the minute. There's a few big Russian wars still to come. Where to send the rest? The army has thousands of extra soldiers, regulars, local militias, and reservist groups. Some say this is too much. They say they could be doing much more useful work in other places. Things like rebuilding our nation, repairing factories, repaving roads, that sort of thing. It's an interesting proposal, and we have to consider the possibility that our forces could be more effectively utilised in other ways. Do it. A decision? Ooh. It's probably been there for a while, I haven't noticed. So we don't just get to choose, we must... what do you call it? Influence. So, the high command... Our command is somewhat oil efficiency, somewhat inefficient. Okay, well that's no good, we'll have to do that. Election season. SLP campaign Newcastle MSA? That must be Sterling's party. So if we... Can we make these decisions? We can. Alright, apparently we're going to campaign in Cornwall. Oh yeah, because we've picked a party, so we can campaign anywhere as the as the NDL. I understand. Okay, oh, watch me lose the election now because I haven't been paying attention to that. So we are... Why do these two S's look very similar? Socialist Labour, yeah, they're all Socialist Labour. We're all NDL. Okay, we can work on that. Right, let's work through these. Let's purge some, yeah, incompetent officers. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll promote competent ones. We'll retire disloyal ones, and we'll give some political concessions. That sounds all like swell things to do. Okay, low manpower. Yeah, that's fine. We're working through a deficit, not a problem. And not only a deficit, but we'll have to also upgrade all the old stuff as well. But that's okay. Keep working away. So how often can I do these? We'll find out in a moment. Wallace F. Bennett inaugurated as the President of the United States. So the Democrats are in charge. Cool. Mild-mannered and adverse to political extremes. Sounds reasonable. The English Phoenix. So what, let's give us stability, and we will lose food insecurity. Excellent. The scars are still present on the English landscape and the English soul, but thanks to the reconstruction commands, they are scars rather than open wounds. The process of healing won't be able to get fully on its feet until the people have elected a new government, but nobody would be lying if they said the commands did a damn good job with what they had. From the ashes of oppression and war, a new England rises, an England without the shackles of totalitarianism, with the vultures of fascism picking at its bones. From here and forever, it is a free England which will govern this land, governed by the people, of the people, and for the people, not for the tyrant in Germania and a curse upon his house. Let him know that the fire of freedom rises. Right. You will tell me, presumably, one day. Now I can click a button again. Helps if you unpause. Maybe not. South Africa. You do me wrong. Alright, Ceylon. Oh, apparently I don't need it anymore. Okay. I can click another button, but no pop-up. So where do we want to focus then? Let's go, I mean, they're pretty strong there. Where is it close? 25, 40, 25, 35, 20, 35. Here's probably the closest. Well, both 10%. Let's go try and nab Lancashire. Oh, now we're short. I knew we were short. You didn't believe me. Let's have a look at how's the funds doing. We should be just positive. Yeah, we are. Just about. But we need our GDP to keep growing, which is it's doing slowly. So slowly. Are we using any of our civs at the minute, actually? Just to repair some stuff. Okay. Odd your wished. Right, we'll do that in a minute. Transbaikal Principality. Presidium of a Supreme Soviet. I mean, they sound fancy, but who knows? I mean, we may as well spend some time building some infrastructure. Assuming that will help things. Good. The Scottish President Robert McIntyre makes a state visit. In the first visit of an independent Scottish leader to England since the 16th century, President Robert McIntyre arrived at Victoria Station yesterday. McIntyre and his wife Letita were treated to a welcoming committee by the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment and the Coldstream Guards. Some small protests by people who believed McIntyre's Scottish National Party betrayed the United Kingdom in the Second World War were held, but the crowd was largely positive towards the visitors. After an informal lunch at Buckingham Palace, McIntyre then held meetings with the Prime Minister, other cabinet members, and the Leader of Opposition. During these meetings, several... Who is the Leader of Opposition? We don't really have one. Anyway, during these meetings, several trade agreements between Scotland and England were finalised, including one where Scotland agreed to purchase several aircraft for their flag carrier. Oh no, flag carrier line, okay. Not military aircraft, civilian ones. In a speech to Parliament today, McIntyre spoke at length about the shared historical and cultural links between England and Scotland, especially of recent support of HMMLR during the Civil War by the Scottish Government. Members of Parliament who hoped for a change in SNP's stance against unionism were disappointed, although President McIntyre did state that Scotland would gladly work with England as an equal partner in economic and defence issues. The visit to Westminster was capped off with President McIntyre laying a wreath to the unknown warrior in Westminster Abbey. Lovely. Hey Jack, what's the plan? We're currently rebuilding England after winning the Civil War, and the plan is hopefully once we get our infrastructure and our economy back in place, we can make moves to reunite the United Kingdom. So ideally take out Wales and Scotland and try and reclaim Northern Ireland. But it's in TNO and you can't just go around fabricating wars. We have to wait for Casus Belli through focuses. So we've got a little bit to work through before we can do that. So next up, we need to put all the traitors and collaborators on trial. The matter of what to do with officials and military members of a collaboration regime has been a hotly debated subject. The left resistance, rebels proper and Sterling's faction all having disagreements on the fates of the accused and indeed on many groups of people as a whole. A solution as agreed to by Auchinleck, Sterling and Alexander is to hold a series of public trials for the most notorious collaborators. So our people and the world will know this government is not the same as that which it replaced, but it values justice and not mere revenge out of hand. They may be guilty till one, but the traitors will receive a fair trial for their sins. And we can keep campaigning, so let's keep going here. I think we're trying to sway this one. Where are they campaigning? Somerset. Down here. If African Civil War is over. Sponko, yeah, the mod is epic. It's got a ridiculous amount of content in it. Oxford trial's done. Now we must select our judges. Right, so who won the South African Civil War? The Union of South African. Okay, hopefully some friendly types. Will I get land from outside the UK? I don't believe so. I've not gone through this. It's almost like a storyline you get in this mod. But I think this one actually ends just with reunification, though I could be wrong. I say I've not played through England before. Tino should be top mod. It should. I mean, they are keep working on it, and I know they've got another huge content drop coming up, so it'll keep gaining popularity. Yeah, you see, it's a story-based game. Peace at last. 1970. Yeah, it's better. I think we'd say the initial stories have 10 years of content for each of the countries, so that would put us there. Alright, who should we go first? Let's start with the head. Alec Douglas Home, the longest serving Prime Minister in the history of collaborationist England, will while his electoral strength still remains undefeated, his tenure was ended by the free peoples he had tried to submit. Now we shall bring him before the court to defend himself. He's accused of every injustice, every violation, every misery suffered by the English people during this war. Every order, every action, every inaction can be traced to him and him alone. We intend to make him answer for every one of those crimes, and prosecute the leader of the collaborationists to the fullest extent for the crimes committed under his command. Sponker, thanks for the follow. Yeah. Well, you're talking about the rate you play through it, or the speed you play at. The Soviet world. Do you know, I've not done a Soviet game. I've watched a couple of playthroughs. They do look amazing, but so far I've done Iberia, and I'm now on to England. The 6 judges must debate his rage through the resistance forces regarding the fairness of the trials. So we are 2 judges from Sterling, 2 judges from the left, and 2 judges from the rebels proper. Okay. Fight the Serbians. So which Russian faction did you play through as? Currently we've got, well, as happens a lot, the West Russians are coming in the west, and then we've got Commonwealth of Siberia, and still a little to play for over here. The big red one, yeah. I don't know if you've seen they've just released an update over the last couple of days, which has new content for Russia. So we've got like a Russian Empire storyline post-unification. So if you are keen to have another run through that, maybe something for you to do. They've also changed the mod page on Steam, so you have to go and subscribe to a different one. Oh, back to the elections. I'm going to end up losing this election because I'm not paying enough attention to it. There, keep going. Cool. Euro League has defeated someone. Head of a snake. Alec Douglas Home was escorted into the courtroom, already certain how he would be judged. He held no hope the judges would grant him mercy. He was the Prime Minister, and to rebels, he'd betrayed his country, betrayed his people. Home was forcefully motioned to his seat alongside his defence team. Who could not hide their contempt for him? It's a great defence team to have. Those who were friendliest faces room. And then the judge began proceedings. Alec Douglas Home, you stand here in front of all England accused of heinous crimes. You stand accused of high treason against England and her people. How do you plead? Not guilty, his lawyer responded unconvincingly. Home's defence team gave an uninspired, stunted speech that claimed he was too scared to fulfil his duty as Englishman to resist the Germans and feared for his life. Once they were finished, the prosecution immediately tore into Home, insulting his character, calling him a coward and of course a damned bloody traitor. The jury took no time to deliver their deliberation. Holmes' first thought after the verdict would have rage. Those fools. Once Germany gets back on their feet, they'd be back to crush England once and for all. There would be no more England after they were done. But he calmed down. There was no use spending his last days angry at the people he understood. He only wished they weren't so hasty. Holmes was not fazed as they sentenced him to death, and he did not struggle as he was pulled back to his cell to await his fate. That's what you get. Alright, next, the traitor, Montgomery. Monty. If he had died in the invasion, he would be forever remembered as a hero. If he had reviewed service, he might still be. And if he had joined the rebels, he would have had a chance of redemption. And yet, here he is. The case is clear-cut. He was in charge of the collaborationist army, and everything the army did would be blamed on him. However, he still has conducted his actions in the past that were admirable, and there remains a not insignificant amount of respect for him amongst Claude and supporters. Might it be worthwhile to temper justice with mercy? Doubt it. Hey Optimus, how's it going? How's your end zone run going? You managed not to get everyone killed? How long have we been making content? About 2 months, I think. It was maybe 2.5, just January I started doing this stuff. Execution of Alec Douglas Home. Holmes sat in his cell awaiting his fate. He had already come to terms with his impending execution not long after his sentencing. There was no use in fighting it now. However, as death kept closer and closer to him, Lord Holmes' mind drifted to another life. He thought of a life where he helped resistance. He saw himself smuggling documents out of Westminster, subtly resisting the Germans from inside Parliament. Wasn't that what he was already doing? It was an open secret to many in Parliament. He had no love for the Germans. Yes, they were collaborators, but it was necessary work from within to keep the boot from coming down too hard on all of England. How did I get 4 to 5 subs on YouTube? I managed to find essentially a niche game. So, Combat Mission Battle for Normandy, which is a fantastic game, also has quite a dedicated fan base and not a lot of content out there. And I got a bit lucky that was one of the first ones I started making content for. Interesting though, it doesn't work very well on the stream. It works much better as YouTube videos, but that's how it worked. And so I'm keeping going with that, but I'm trying to put some other stuff I'm into on the channel as well to, you know, get a bit of a wider audience doing both things. Yes. Holmes was led into the sunlight and saw the courtyard. He recognised the Tower of London which loomed over him. He was escorted to the opposite side of a tower green and made to kneel against the wall, and saw a small gathering was assembled to watch. He couldn't make anyone out, but he was sure Auchinleck was watching. The firing squad marched in, halted, and executed a crisp right face. He stood at attention awaiting further commands. Ready, aim, fire. Cool. We'll just skip that one. Try and get through a little bit more. We can't do another vote just yet. You make content yourself, Spunko? We can campaign again. Into cool. The traitor. That's cool. What kind of stuff do you do? The Field Marshal strode into court with his chest puffed out and his head held high, nodding respectfully toward the judges and taking a seat beside the defence team. Field Marshal Monty, you stand here in front of all of England accused of high treason against England and her people. How do you plead? Not guilty. They always plead not guilty. The defence team painted a stark picture before the jury, a picture of brave and noble military man who fought in both world wars to defend his country. Monty had insisted to his team that he himself be called as a witness, and he gave a short but powerful speech regarding his duty as an officer to protect the English people in the face of tyranny and evil, even if it meant sacrificing values you hold dear. The prosecution fought back against such claims, arguing that by sacrificing the values of liberty and democracy, Monty had failed to protect them. The jury, naturally, split. Those followed Claude and NDL wish for the veteran to be sent to exile, while the supporters of the SLP want to see him properly punished and sentenced to forced labour, a very communist. Those sympathetic, however, argued for his death. So, what do we think? Exile, death, or forced labour? You've been doing some CSGO vids, but transitioned to some Hearts of Iron. Yeah, you should definitely make content you enjoy, but there's certain stuff which it's hard to break into. Yeah, even my Hearts of Fire stuff doesn't get many views, and CSGO there's loads of content out there. Yeah, Optimus, you do it. So I split my time where I've got dedicated YouTube videos go up like 3 times a week, and the other 4 videos I put up are essentially my Monday night stream chopped up. So there's always a kind of link between Twitch and YouTube, and hopefully it works. Alright, since you guys don't make a choice, I'm going to go for... I'll go for Exile. We'll recognise his service in the past. Yeah, I did wonder, Optimus, because I saw you had like 300 odd followers. So you must have been doing it for a little bit of time, if not recently. Okay, so we've done Monty. We're now on to Harold Macmillan, the Chancellor and Under-Treasurer of His Majesty's Exchequer. Macmillan was not like the other prominent defendants of the cabinet. However, unlike Home, he was never in a position where he was responsible for any of the horrible crimes of government. Unlike Chesterton, he's not a terrible and shameless individual who truly believed in the object of what the right was trying to do. This will allow him to avoid their fate, perhaps not. We shall see. 2 years off, fair enough, man. Central European Council has defeated Das Reichskommissariat Ostland. Yeah, we're doing well. So it's not socialists. All of them? Asked one of the officers in the prosecution team. Yes, all of them, affirmed the lead prosecutor. Most of these people on the list are MPs that haven't been involved in anything too terrible, since they may have voted on a few suspicious things, but that's not entirely criminal or worthy of serious punishment. Aside from kicking them out of the House of Commons, doesn't mean we can't just kill them all. Sure we can, said one of the Sterling-aligned officers. Another officer was taken aback by this statement. No, we can't. If we do this, it'll be a massive orgy of violence. That is an odd way of describing something you are against, calling it an orgy of violence. Besides, these people aren't going to the future in politics after this. Who wants an old holdover from a royal party? You are correct, said the main prosecutor. We need to make the transition as painless as possible, and that means we can't slaughter anyone who disagrees with us. These people have terrible views and beliefs, but that doesn't mean we should kill them or make them suffer untoward punishment. Now, let's go over to people we're letting off one last time and make the final decision. Yes, sir, said the attorneys who agreed. First up is Thatcher Margaret. Any objections to keeping her on the list? There weren't. Alright, so her case is settled. I'll let her defence know she's free to go. Oh, did the Thatcher come back? Yeah. Oh. I don't have a Discord. It's not something I've set up yet. I need to do all that at some point, but I thought, given that there was no one turning up yet, I thought it'd be not on the top of the to-do list. But although a part of me, and I get why you want to do it as a content creator, and having a channel is a place for everyone to come and hang out. But I know from my own Discord, I have a ridiculous number of channels that I'm kind of joined to. I never go in half of them. But yeah, I should set one up. What about yourself? With every step touching the tables of the pier, Monty felt further away from his homeland. Grabbing a small suitcase in hand, the old general was approaching his destination. He only carried some personal belongings, yet at the same time, the luggage felt heavy. Monty made a mental recollection of what he brought with him, just to be case. Packed the old Browning pistol that accompanied him in all his campaigns, used to slay a rebel assassin attempting to end his life. His old uniform was also in that suitcase, which he wore during his meetings with the Claverish cabinet. Finally, there were multiple medals for his military feats, including his heroic actions against the German invaders. To his horror, he also remembered that a few of them were given for destroying hideouts from resistance. It was then when the sheer realization paralysed him. Dropping the suitcase in shock, he was not only carrying his luggage, but also the weight of sins committed against his nation. For the remainder of his life, his crimes against fellow Englishmen are going to haunt him. When the time to board the ship came, Monty saw the new English flag proudly waving from a nearby building. His tears went down through his cheeks. He muttered a few words before leaving. I'm sorry. I kind of want to know where he was going. Well, have I played Banished? Banished is fantastic, yes. Never on stream, but obviously before I was doing that, but yeah. Played that. It's pretty old now, isn't it? Oh, thanks to the host, Optimus. The trial of Harold Macmillan. Macmillan was always going to be a controversial case. For many years he headed up the reformist faction in the Royal Party and at least somewhat pushed for partial reform, but when the war came he ended up in the cabinet of Douglas Home. And anyone in the cabinet ended up at Oxford, even if they were primarily dealing with His Majesty's treasure. Things took a strange turn at opening the trial. Macmillan stood up and read a prepared statement. In it, he told the jury that he joined the collaborators out of a desire to stop the suffering of English citizens back in the war, and he'd attempted to subvert the will of the Germans at every turn he could. His goal had been to see a return to English democracy. However, he decided to remain in the Royal Party during the war out of a fear of the rebellion would be unsuccessful, and because of a fear that the garrison at Cornwall would put an end to organised resistance along with Germany. It was only after the war had ended, with a free government restored, the garrison crushed, and Germany still in chaos, did he realise the enormity of his mistake. He accepted responsibility of his actions and apologised. This threw the trial into a tailspin. The defence argued that Macmillan was sincere about his regret for an enormous mistake done with the best of intentions. The prosecution argued it was not enough, a merely last-ditch attempt to save his life. The jury was divided. The NDL wanted to be exiled, Sterling's wanted him dead, and the leftists were more merciful, however. They wished to see him experience a new England, taking shape first-handedly, removed from any of its politics, of course. No, I think he's got to go. But we'll remain moderates and we'll continue to exile them rather than kill them. But I'm not letting them back in politics. You spent 11 hours again to, and then you can't get back into it. It's yeah, it's good. But I mean, I know there's been some additional mods and stuff updated. I don't know how well it stands the test of time. it was certainly a really good amount of time. But things like, I suppose, new stuff comes out like Endzone, etc., which also scratched that itch. I do do a lot of strategy and things, but sometimes it's nice just to have a bit more of a chill base builder and watch something grow. Ah, I see, yeah. Honestly, that is something which I think we're almost in somewhat of a golden age of gaming. It's just the prevalence and ease of modding these days. Unbelievably fantastic. People far more talented than I making such great content for so many games. And that's him being exiled. On the wrong side of history. Okay, who's next?